Merry Christmas Eve to one and all. Now, while everyone is at home this evening, waiting for Father Christmas to hurry down the chimney and drop off some presents, here at Intermission Kills, we are inviting in the vampire and talking about the very first ever Nosferatu, a symphony of horrors, as it was subtitled back in the day. Obviously, with us being very excited for that. Well, I grew. I don't necessarily speak for all of us, but
Very excited.
But me and you, very excited for one Robert Eggers film. And at the time of this video's release, it will be released to America tomorrow on Christmas Day. So we thought, why not go back and talk about the very first one from over a century ago? Do you have a history with this film? This one?
Only a little. Like I say, I've seen it before years ago. And I seen it in college because it was something we got shown for like some sort of composition task or something like that. And it's always something I've known a lot about the history of its influence and how it got how it went missing for ages, just purely because the heirs of the Dracula, what was he called? Bram Stoker. Basically, obviously accused of plagiarism and kicked off, and then demanded that in court that all copies are burnt, which is mental. This is the first time I've watched it since then. I was very blurry. I remember the specific scenes here and there. And I just remember it just being really cool.
Yeah.
And then found out that there was an additional remake before this one that I never heard of before.
Yeah, no, not too dissimilar to you. I watched this for the first time in 2022. That was the only time I watched this before now. Again, more so just because I was, it's one of those ones I'm like, okay, tick that one off. You know what? This might be the very first horror film that I knew of as a child. And I specifically remember, I know you were saying that your first knowledge of Nosferatu was very different than my first knowledge. My first knowledge is I remember the frame of like him walking up the stairs, shadowed. I think that was the earliest memory to me of what a horror film is. It is an adaptation of Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. And while I use quotes as adaptation, it is just like, they want to do Dracula. They couldn't get the rights. So they went, just change names. That's what they did.
It's just like, I mean, I reckon these days it wouldn't have caused such a hoo-ha.
But I'm not too familiar with, I haven't read Dracula, and I haven't even watched the film yet, the 30s one, Bela Lugosi.
Oh, not really, with Chris, what the hell's his name?
Gary Oldman.
No, you're thinking of
Coppola.
No, Christopher Lee.
Oh, yes, I haven't seen that one either. Seen that one either. The story itself isn't very, horror.
No.
In the sense of, so as I said, I forgot. It's just like...
It's just a disaster in real estate.
It's like a vampire wants to move house, so an estate agent visits him.
Wants to move house.
And then the vampire sees a photo of the estate agent's wife. He goes, oh, who's that? Who's that? Yeah. And then he gets the hots for it. Then he calls it a plague.
You only moved because the council tax went up.
Although it is over a century old, I still do think there are quite effective moments in this.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely moments, yeah.
But it is in the presentation, it is in the direction, I think, that F.W. Murnau did, really.
And those bits are kind of getting, from what's been mentioned in the remake coming, they are utilising those bits that is still, effective into the new one.
Yeah.
It's got, the shadows.
And again, it's like, I forgot, how many instances. I was like, all right, that's an iconic shot.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's an iconic shot. Well, okay, you almost forget how many shots have actually still stuck in time. And I know, usually just simply talk about shots isn't necessarily so what, the film looks pretty. For a silent film, shots are the only thing.
It's the same with the score, though, as well. The score has to, do double the effort.
Well, what we watched the BFI restoration, which I forgot the composer's name. It did say at the beginning.
Dave.
But this, the drummer for Thrones.
That was Dave.
Dave. That's the thing with silent films as well. It's you're never guaranteed the same score because obviously the original score isn't.
It's quite cool that you do that, though.
Yeah, so it just depends who owns the restoration. They go, we're going to hire this composer to do it. What did you make of this score?
I think it's pretty cool. Really cool. There's some bits I think the bit when it's the cellar. There's obviously the signature shot when he comes into the room and then he's in the corner that. And then
when Hutter first
it's I could just hear what I couldn't really remember what the one I saw had, but it was definitely different. But it was like the semitone trills, which are really cool and that, and it just kind of it has to just sell the moment as best it can. I liked it. It was bombastic in a couple of bits where like I did giggle when he's carrying the coffin and moving into his house with perfect balance on that little canoe he's got.
Oh yes,
and then
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
dun dun dun. He's just carrying his coffin.
When they recommend a silent film to new audiences, people go like, just watch the comedies, like a Chaplin or a Buster Keaton
that are intended to be funny.
Yeah. So you can laugh at it. Whereas like a drama, it has to still really sell.
Yeah.
It has to be really good for anyone to really take it seriously. I still think the premise and the presentation around this film is still so strong that it moves past being like I think it bypasses being unintentionally silly. I know we laugh, but we're menaces. So
We're picking things apart for the humor.
yeah, we're trying to have a good time this early morning. Watching this film now, I can still look at it and go like, there's still a lot of effectiveness in this.
Oh yeah.
There's like it doesn't even like even not even in a sense like yes for the time
I think
it
visually
really
it
good.
does.
I still think it really like
Predominantly visually.
it's a strong visual film.
Yeah.
This is. Really is. Again, this version had the version that we watched had the color tint as well.
Yeah.
Which I
couldn't remember that.
Which I really like. I really like the color tint. It does.
I liked it. I just couldn't remember that.
Yeah.
Like,
It's nothing extravagant, but it's in the sense of like it's used in the sense like nighttime, daytime.
Yeah.
Which I think, especially for a film about a vampire,
yeah.
that really is effective. Again, it's like there's that one moment where like it's like the warm orangey tint.
Yeah.
And then like the wind blows a candle out, and then it just cuts to like the blue cold tint. Like that's effective.
It's a lot better than the one move the Paul went just to signify it's more on the short chicken. So chicken's up.
I get it. Well, also you need to think. Well, I think as well. Like with a film that would have sound, we would have just heard like a root, like to signify like wait, the sun's coming up.
It makes
so I
sense,
get
yeah.
it. I get it. Then in the sense that we need to just hard cut to a chicken. We need to just
morning. What do they do for night? Cat. It's just like a paper mache moon. It's just like put in front of the camera.
That's one thing I will say though, because we say about that like other films in this time probably would have used like arts and craft techniques for that.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I spotted a miniature in this film. I don't know what they did with the boat, but everything looked like they.
That was a.
That's what I
ship.
mean. That's
that
what
was
I mean.
A vessel.
That's what I mean. They, I don't think I saw anything that looked like. Oh well, we can't afford this thing, so we're just gonna have like a toy horse walk by. It's like no, there's like real horse and carriages. There's like
I think they just didn't think of it back then. Just like thought it just wasn't like. Oh, why would you mention it? That would be dumb. It'll just be tiny. You know what I mean? Like I just.
Like A Trip to the Moon had the thing with like they.
Yeah.
But that was like the moon and all that. But I think that's still what's very impressive about this is like they've got wide shots of like there's a ship.
Vistas. Yeah.
There's a big ship or like yep, there's a horse carriage just.
Do you reckon someone said you could just use a miniature? We're like, oh.
Ah.
So we didn't have to rent that ship.
I'm very curious about like the logistics of this. Like, there's so many horses in this, but like, what's the bet? Like, they just like went to a field and went, get that
Just
one.
nick the horse.
Just get that horse.
Yeah.
Or like,
Poor farmer's just lost all his horses. Like, where they going? Watches the film. Went, there they are.
hang on, that's Betsy. And also, there's shots on the boat.
Yeah.
I don't think they're sets. I don't
think they're sets.
Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not massively knowledgeable on the making of this film. If I'm being
It
perfectly
looks
honest.
like the inside of an actual boat.
But like, I guarantee you, they probably did just set up the camera. Like, right,
yeah, because you gotta think this is like years of. They'll just think. They'll just think totally like, well, we need to film there, so we need to go there. Not thinking we could just take like half a fig and just save money or something like that.
It's impressive. Just the actual, like, just seeing the film. It's again, and it's even more impressive now. I think again with the, I know I sound like a broken record, but like the amount of films I use, it's like we're shooting on green screen, and it's just a fucking green screen film. Whereas it's still impressive to see like a film over a century old just being like, oh wow, that is just buildings, like they are just in a castle.
To be fair though, back then if they had like green screen, they would use the hell out of
No,
it.
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. And I'm very well aware that like everything that's done in this film is because like, well, how the fuck else are we meant to do it? It is an example of like maybe limitations aren't a bad thing.
No,
like
limitations are never a bad thing.
Like they like they're like
space creativity.
Like F.W. Murnau was probably just like, well, there's a scene with a boat. How else are we meant to do it?
When you get a boat.
When you get a boat. Oh, there's horses. When you get fucking horses.
Limitations can be some of the best fuel for creativity.
Yeah, no, I agree. You can't talk about this film without talking about the use of shadows in this.
Yeah. which is getting brought back, which is class.
Which I'm excited for. For that. But and obviously this falls within the German expressionism era movement, which I'm not too familiar with. A big staple in like German expressionism was the use of shadows. That was just a stylistic thing in this. And
all hand puppets.
Yes. Yeah. But and although there isn't like it's not as much of a player as compared to like Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, where they were painting shadows on them. Like, for considering the film's plot, this film is actually more so quite grounded in some sort of reality, in the sense of like they're not. It's not
the real estate.
No, but like even like visually, it's not trying to be too fantastical. Like the only thing fantastical about this film is Orlok himself, apart from just simply being a shadowy film of seeing him like coming down from a shadowy hallway, which. Still, there's imagery like that that's still used today. That shit scares me up. You look at like Conjuring 2 with Valak. Like I think like you could like look at that and go like, well, that's just without Nosferatu. Would there be that? Without Nosferatu, would there be something along the lines of like Elisa from PT? Do you know what I mean? Of just like somebody like stood in like the end of like
just foreboding look to it.
Yeah,
like,
just like not he's not
what's
doing
it going to do.
Yeah, exactly. But then there's also really cool, clever moments of like at the ending where he goes up to Ellen's room. Again, as I said, the classic shot of him walking up the stairs. Yeah, brilliant. That's not his shadow. That is him. Yeah. And there's the moment of like
form.
We see Orlok's shadow on Ellen.
Yeah.
And she's reacting to feel it. It's like that's a cool concept for like a horror
it's like
creature.
As well, like when he reveals himself under the boat to that one of the people on the ship, he rises. It's the shadow, and then he just forms out of it. Yeah. Like so, it's like I think that's when they're trying to establish that's like a form that he takes.
It's the use of the unknown. The presentation of Orlok is very intriguing. Like he almost breaks horror rules in the sense of like we see him just in the daylight.
Yeah. Like I said, it's that he's in the daylight and he dies in the daylight later on, but you just see him there and you're like, oh well, he's okay now. Like, he's got his little hood on.
Like there's the moment like where we first properly see him is like he's just kind of like
and then you see him later on. He's got his curlers in.
Yeah, he's like hello there. He's like, but it's like so he's not hidden, which is interesting back then. Again, different rules for horror back then in terms of what people were expecting or whatever.
They weren't caring as well.
That's what I mean. It's like they did the makeup on him, and to people say, well, that's just scary anyway. Yeah. So it makes it interesting of like when Hutter first freaks out of seeing him walking down the hall. It's a little bit confusing through today's lens in the sense that we saw him. He just doesn't have his hat on now. I'm not scared by this film, but I can appreciate. But I still think it uses horror really effectively in the sense of like Orlok himself. He's still quite a frightening look. You know what I mean? Like he's still not cheesy.
Yeah, it's like the actual look of him's quite unsettling.
Like he's just with the face, the long hands. What they kind of like achieve in this is like he is still kind of unnerving. Oh yeah. In wides and close-ups. Yeah. So it's not just like he's scary in a wide, but when you punch it on him, he's funny looking. Yeah. You know, I'm not laughing at the look of Orlok, which I still think is very impressive. I don't know what about it. It's like there's still something about this film that isn't stupid.
There is funny bits where he's just like sat there reading his paper.
Like that's...
While he's got his curlers in.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay.
But there's things like that. But also when he's meant to be scary, he is actually the effect is still there. I agree, yeah. He's not meant to be frightening when he is just reading the paper.
He's unintentionally funny sometimes.
Yeah. Again, through our stupid bullshit when we're doing. Yes, it is. But I think like,
hey, I can't wait till my mortgage clears.
The premise itself is not aged badly. I don't think.
No.
Like maybe not the premise. The actual like the.
I was gonna say they stole the premise pretty much.
The concept of it all, in the sense of like, all I'm saying is there's a reason why this film's getting its second remake. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there's plenty of horror films from this time period that are good, but people like, that only needs to be in that time period. Whereas like there's a lot of Nosferatu that is like that benefits from being brought in to a more modern outlook of it all. I also think as well like it helps that it's not complicated. Yeah. Like it is just
very
like
simple. Vampire moves in, freaks out. That's another thing. Causes the plague.
That's another cool thing. I think that's a good change of the source material. Is like instead of a bat, he turns into rats.
Yeah,
There's something a bit like, again, Bat is cool. It's cool and gothic.
Well,
but
he represents a plague, doesn't he?
again, he's several rats as well. He's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just a
Not just a
singular
one.
rat. Which I know there's some, again, as you said, represents the plague.
Mm.
More frightening. The harbinger of death. Another thing with Orlok that I love the representation of, he is frightening and unsettling, but we don't see him actually kill anyone.
No. You see him have a little nibble.
We don't even see that really. It's like, I mean, no, we
the
can't
beginning
do
of it in the first one when he thinks he got bit by mosquitoes.
No, but we don't see Orlok do it, is what I'm
No,
saying.
you see him going to do it. Though.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. It's like we never like
Nibble.
yeah, or like when he's causing havoc on like the ship.
Yeah,
We don't see it. We never want to see him go ha.
Yeah, he just stands up, scares him off. He jumps off the boat. Doesn't he?
Yeah. That imagery combined with the score to make it seem like there is actually like some sort of like fear in it, in the sense of, again, I'm not scared. I'm not going to be like. I'm not
Forgot your rock hard.
I'm not going to be. No, I'm not. I'm not scared of Nosferatu. I actually think if you haven't seen a silent film, and if you are excited for Nosferatu, like the new one, this is actually still really worth a watch.
I'm very interested to see if they bring on the whole real estate thing aspect of it again, because that'd be funny. Just in a modern setting.
Yeah,
I see a vampire discuss. I can move in on this estate.
Here's the thing, Ellen Hutter in this film is so fucking nothing.
Yeah.
She is
Just sort of runs away every now and then.
She is such right. I know it's the 20s. That's the one section of the film that I'm like, well, this doesn't age greatly.
Yeah.
In the sense, like,
It's just very melodramatic, isn't she?
Hutter, first of all, he's very like
Overly optimistic.
he's overly optimistic until all of a sudden death starts being a
He
thing.
just gets bitten on the neck by a vampire, and then he sees food on the table. He's like, "Oh, brilliant, scran!" Like,
He does,
just
and he
gets just tucks in.
And then he writes the letter being like, oh well, I had 2 mosquito bites. They were like right next to each other. It's like,
Hell of a
you're
mosquito.
an idiot.
Moron.
You're a fucking idiot. And also, Ellen, his wife, just instantly, he's like, I'm going to be gone for 4 days for some business. And then she's like, you would have thought, and she's like, wait, you're dying? He goes, I didn't say that. It's like, and then he leaves really
be
dead
fair.
excited. And then she's like, oh no. And that's Ellen for the rest of the film, really.
Oh, no.
She spends her time looking out the horizon as well for a bit on the beach.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh dear. Beautiful shot, by the way. It's a gorgeous shot. Her only purpose and her only point in the plot of the film is for Orlok to be like, ooh,
Bit of that.
ooh, I guess I'll have
Naughty
a go at
Orlok.
some of that.
And we have a bet, by the way. I'm betting in Nosferatu 2024. I reckon there's going to be some Orlok sex.
What they laid in this film, the original, of when she kind of starts like seeing things and being a bit more.
Yeah.
I'm really, and again, from what I've seen of the trailers, the new one, I'm really looking forward to how they advance that.
No, yeah, I've seen.
Because there's going to be.
I
think-
assume it's part of it. Some of the clips of Lily Rose death.
Again, the runtime of the new one's an hour longer than this one,
Yeah.
which also, now seeing this film,
Makes sense.
I really am glad about that because, like, again, this film, it's great, it's fantastic, but then there's also things where it's like, I mean, you could have probably like fleshed that out a bit, but like, there's a lot of plot part.
Yeah, there is bits that kind of leave just to, whatever.
Maybe we could have like had less of Nock and more of Ellen.
I really hope in the new one we still. I know they're trying to make him as scary as possible, but I will laugh my head off if all looks like still carrying the coffins around, like nouting on it. Just
I
stood,
do. You know
stood
what?
T-posing on it.
You know what? As much as we did joke about that, there is something really like cool about that imagery of just a vampire walking with his coffin. It's perfectly fine, simple, plotline wise, and it is easy enough to get on board with. Again, as much as I think you could nitpick with it, I still think it holds up. There's a lot of things that hold up.
I think it does visually. Yeah, it's certainly a thing.
It's
I think someone should watch.
It is definitely that, isn't it? It's the visual side of it that like really makes it still stand the test of time, I think.
Yeah.
And again, people might be like, "What?" So it's like it's all style and no substance. No, the style is the substance in this.
Because really, when you think about the time and the film limitations of what I got, you have to sit there and be like, "There's only so much I can actually like take from this."
I think back then, scary. Now it's just cool and atmospheric.
Yeah.
I think that's what it now lacks in actual fear in today's age. It makes up for just simply being like just vibes.
Yeah, vibey.
It is a vibey
vibes.
film. It is a vibey film. Again, I mean, we watched this in the morning, but I think this is like, I don't know, prime nighttime. Have it on.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah, definitely. It was quite cool to watch it like on a morning because it's like just so like, it's not horror in its sense. Like it's just like spooky in a way.
Yeah.
It's like kind of evil.
it is, spooky.
Yeah.
It is still a spooky film, I would say. Again, it helps with all the shots that are like just absolutely iconic and everything with it all. Yeah, no, you know what? Overall, great time. Great time is this one. This film gets credited as being like, it's the first horror film. It's not the first horror film.
No.
It might be the first horror film that was this impactful.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But a very important part of horror history, and it's still worthy of that title. You know, like how some people go like, all right, Citizen Kane. I mean, I like Citizen Kane, but you know what I mean in the sense of like, if some people hear this is the greatest thing ever, and they go like, yeah, maybe for the time.
Same with Casablanca as well.
I mean, I would agree with that. I'm not too hot on Casablanca, but like, whereas I think
hell of beans.
all the joints and all of that, he had to walk in the mine. Out of all the castles in all of the town, he had to walk in the mine.
Oh, Luke's got a fedora.
I'm surprised he didn't.
I enjoy it. I like to say it sets the foundation. It's got some really cool visual stuff. Like you say, you wouldn't throw it on with like, oh, I've got to throw this on at Halloween and stuff like that. It's just kind of a thing. Like, I think now, especially with when the remake comes out, which is apparently amazing based on the critic response and stuff like that, is it's going to be one to go back to see the origins and the historical elements. You know what I mean? Appreciate where it came from and what started, why it's actually being remade.
So that's the original Nosferatu. That's our whatever this is. I don't know what this video is going to be. I'll see what happens.
Nosy Christmas.
Is what it is. Yeah, you know what? Merry Christmas. We'll hopefully within the new year, as in towards the end of the year, we'll talk about the 70s one to lead up to Mr. Eggers.
But first, we're going to watch the monkey. The monkey. Batman?
Oh, I thought you meant...
Not the monkey.
Yeah.
No, the actual monkey. Robbie Williams monkey.
Anyway, thank you all for watching this. Merry Christmas. We'll, I don't know, follow us on Instagram. Merry Christmas. Nosferatu. Just say words.
You know, Nosferatu.
Nosferatu. Max Shrek. Count Orlok. Hodder. And Werner Herzog would be the next one.
Cockcrows.
Down with the claws.